Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Welcome back to On Air with Tony Sweet, Truth Be Told. I'm Tony Sweet, your host, and I'm with my co-host Eddie Connor, Walt Lusk, and Will Benali.
And our show is proudly sponsored by Conscious Life Expo. And to get your tickets for their February event here in Los Angeles, simply go to consciouslifeexpo.com. You can also easily pick up many of our guest book at adventuresunlimitedpress.com, where books can bring answers and a new passion for knowledge. Now, everyone, in our last hour, we spoke with director Craig Capobasso about his film Stranger at the Pentagon, which is based on a true story and a book by Dr. Frank Strangers, and all of that took place in 1957.
In this hour, we bring you what is up to date on sightings, abductions, and encounters with UFOs. That happens on a daily basis with the Director of Communications with MUFON. That's Mutual UFO Network. We have Roger Marsh on the show.
Roger Marsh is a UFO writer, producing daily UFO traffic reports for the Mutual UFO Network, also known as MUFON. He is also MUFON's Director of Communications and the editor of their monthly journal. Roger is a former acquisitions editor for McGraw-Hill Professional Books and was Senior Acquisitions Editor for Consumer Guide and Publications International. Roger developed hundreds of new books and magazines into domestic and international markets. His UFO writing can be seen at MUFON.com, OpenMinds.tv, and, of course, the Huffington Post. Please welcome Roger Marsh.
Welcome, Roger Marsh.
Hey, glad to be here, Tony.
I'm so glad you're here, and it's, we've talked a lot on email, so I'm glad we finally get to talk at least on the phone. So, welcome to the show, and I know a lot of people are, tuning in because they want to know, first of all, what is MUFON? Who is MUFON? What's it all about? So if you could give us a brief description of what MUFON is about, and let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, today we are the largest UFO study group probably on the planet, definitely domestically. We have more than 3,000 members. We mainly cover UFO investigations in this country, but we are also investigating in 46 other countries.
Wow, that's
right
a lot.
Now.
Wow.
And with all 50 states, we have a state director for each state. We have an assistant state director. Every state has a chief investigator, any number of state section directors, and then a lot of field investigators. Those are the people, in the trenches every day going out to investigate UFOs. So it's a pretty lean, mean organization right now, Tony, and we're growing. We have our own TV show now.
I know, hang on, one of my favorites.
It's a great show.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just about to launch season 2. Should kick off in either, I think, January or February.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Yeah, MUFON, I didn't know much about it until the last few years, and I think, but I've always been a UFO enthusiast. I've always been somebody that believed in UFOs. In fact, when I was a child, I saw a UFO. I know Eddie has, and we that's why we become so curious about the UFO terminology, ufology, as we say. And I'm excited to talk with you about what's going on currently here in the U.S. Because I know, as we had earlier, Craig Capobasso, I can never say his last name, but he talked about, a lot of places around the world is increasing in sightings of UFOs, and you're the best person to ask about that. So let's go ahead and start talking about what do you see the trends when it comes to sightings here in the U.S.
these days?
Yeah, these days.
Well, I mean, in general, just a lot more people are reporting UFO sightings now. If you go back and look at, especially the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was a huge fear factor in people. They did not want to report UFOs. It was what we call the ridicule factor.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's just so much television and film out there right now, in all of our mass communications, our cell phones, and we're all in touch by, Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. People are communicating. And I think in past decades, people often typically looked at just the really famous cases like Roswell, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The crash that happened back in the 1940s. But when you come fast forward down to the 21st century, I go on so many shows, Tony. I talk to so many people, and they want to keep bringing hangar in the Nevada desert, or Area 51, excuse me.
Right.
These areas, but I'm kind of laughing in the background.
You're like, there's so many other.
That was so yesterday.
And they're great. I mean, I'm personally in touch with a lot of the researchers who spent, years researching books on some of these topics, and even Rendlesham Forest. We have Left at Eastgate. I love Peter Robbins. I'm friends with all of these people, but the reason I'm laughing in the background is because UFOs are coming down to the ground level every day, Tony. My office is, I'm keeping in touch with state directors all across the country. Mm-hmm. I'm scanning the database, the incoming cases every day. I produce a news feed 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, on what I think are the best cases that we're jumping into and we're looking into. And they're fantastic cases. If we can solve the case, it's boring. Okay, if we can't solve, right. In other words, I think a couple of weeks ago we had a rash of reports in both Utah and Colorado, for example, of disc-shaped UFOs. A lot of photography coming out of both states. And, man, we jumped on that, investigators in 2 different states. It turned out, and I think for the most part, I don't know if they've rolled out all of those cases, but for the most part, it turned out to be the Google Loon program.
Oh, wow.
Balloons
I've never heard of
they
that.
launch in very rural areas to beam the internet out to people.
Huh, I've never heard of that before.
The Google project's been hitting the press the last couple of days.
The Google Loon project, right. It's out there, and we're able to verify. Well, those are the boring cases.
Yeah, give us some good ones.
Right. I'll give you a quick example, and I'm armed with a bunch of cases here. But I just became aware of this at about 11 o'clock last night. I just stepped into my office and I checked in, and here this great case out of West Virginia just popped up. Now this is a case. It could be its own, 1-hour TV special coming up, assuming we can't solve it. Yeah. But it's in the little town of Marmette, West Virginia, about 1,500 people, just south of Charleston. I think is Charleston, West Virginia, a little bigger town. If you're looking for a motel in that area, I think you have to go up there to eat or for your overnight. But this is a coal plant in Marmette, and it's shut down for the night because there's a crew in there working on pipes. 10 guys at the end of their shift. This is about 10 o'clock at night. They come out of this plant, and they're all out in the parking lot, leaning up against their vehicles talking, and somebody points, in the distance and says, "What's that?" And they look up, and it's a gigantic triangle-shaped object, Tony. It's only, they estimated, somewhere between 300 and 500 feet off the ground.
Wow,
completely
that is
silent.
low.
And if that's not enough, triangle, 300 to 500 feet off the ground and silent, it's the size of a football field.
Huge.
And they're
Huge.
right. It's coming up from the southwest, coming right. But the story gets even better. They're standing there watching this. These 10 witnesses, and it just slowly, moves by their location. It starts heading, I believe they said northeast up into that Charleston area. And right behind it, by about a minute or two, was a second ship. Same thing, 300 to 500 feet off the ground, size of a football field. A couple of minutes later, a third ship comes up, and a minute or so behind that, a much smaller ship. It was a smaller object with red lights on it. Absolutely incredible. So we're on it. Fred Saluga is our West Virginia State Director. I just spoke to him about an hour ago, knowing I'm coming on the show. And this weekend, he's going to be in touch with the witnesses and getting testimony.
With the advent of cell phones and everybody's got cameras on their phones, I mean, are we getting more photos or anything that's substantive? Because that's my curiosity.
Did someone take
in
any
all
pictures
these
of-
sightings, and are we getting any more, decent photos out of all this stuff?
Yeah, that's a very common question I get. The simple answer is pretty much flatline. No, we're not.
I was afraid you were going to tell me that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some even current cases that I'm looking into where they've said that they had video, but they did not upload it with the case. I'm waiting for the investigation to continue. But if you look at on the trend side of UFOs, when they're coming down low like that, some of the things that we're seeing is that they apparently are able to control electronics at the ground level.
That's what I was going to ask.
And even to
and
even to a further extent, I'll just say in general, they're able to control time and space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be
Makes
nice?
sense, too.
Well, and Roger, hi, I'm Eddie, and I grew up.
Hi, Eddie.
I grew up in North Carolina, which is really, really close to the West Virginia line, and I've seen 5 ships there before I ever graduated high school, and 3 of the 5 of them we were just talking about in the previous hour were 3 V-shaped ships flying super low in a V formation, and the whole neighborhood saw it. It didn't make any sounds whatsoever, and we were literally just running and chasing it down the road, as it were, because it was moving that slow. And
this is the one you threw potatoes at.
this is the one we're throwing potatoes at, Roger. Okay.
Not
Oh,
potatoes.
I was
Taters.
listening.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm impressed. This is Walt. I'm
Yeah.
impressed.
How high off the ground was it, Eddie?
It was literally not even the height of a football field. We could see the colors on it. There were colors like we'd never seen before. There were 3 dominant colors, one at each point, and they were sort of fading in and out. And then there was this sort of blue-ish, greenish kind of thing on each of the V parts of it, just sort of fading in and out. Didn't make a single sound, and they were so low. I mean, we were literally throwing potatoes. We thought we could hit them with potatoes.
And what was the apparent size of the craft?
Gosh, they were huge, but they weren't. They were huge. I wouldn't.
And you were
know,
young,
'cause
so
I
yeah.
can't even tell you what my north-south
And
is.
approximately what year was that, Eddie?
It was 1978. No, I lied. It was 1977. It was coming out of 76, going into 77. Yep.
Right, and look from 77 till now, what has come out? Like, assuming somebody might be out there thinking that was a black op program, that we were developing something. Well, it's 2014. Where is it?
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point. Thank you. That's right.
Right. Why aren't we at least transporting troops to Afghanistan that way? Something
Well,
like
the
this.
TR-3B is out
safely.
there and it's a black op.
Or
it's still
sneaking up on
quiet.
ISIS, something like that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. But you bring up a very good point. You're in North Carolina in 1977, and you said the whole neighborhood saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? If we have time on tonight's show to talk about my own sighting, very similar, very similar sighting, just a different year, different neighborhood, different state. And, my question is, why is there not a movie of the week of what happened to you in North Carolina? The problem is people in the past didn't know where to report it. And typically, if you probably, I don't even know if we had 911 yet in 1977, but if we did, law enforcement, they don't know how to investigate UFOs.
Well, you know what?
If the media can't do it, and law enforcement can't do it.
No, you're right.
Well, what I
Absolutely.
found out the next day, everybody on the school bus was talking about it. Everybody at school was talking about it. A whole ton of people had seen it, and this is in junior high school. And they had called their local radio stations and TV stations, and they were talking about that whenever our parents were going to work on the radio stations. But then it literally got shut down, and then they wouldn't address it, and they just literally claimed it was a weather balloon. So back then we didn't have
Always
911, but we did call. We didn't, but everybody called the radio stations. It's like, did you see it? Are you looking out your window?
Right. It's like all of you who were there, who personally experienced it, you all have the memory of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it sits there, but you're kind of burning in the background that it's not been reported. It's not in a McGraw-Hill textbook in our high schools across the country.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist there yet. And that's why MUFON is pushing on. We're trying to get more and more members nationally, more field investigators out there. We have a lot of territories in this country where we just don't have enough field investigators to get out there.
Well, if let's say some of our listeners that I just put up a picture that says join MUFON, and how does one become a field investigator? What do you have to do? Do you have to like a class to go through?
Well, basically, the way we do it, anybody, you can start at MUFON.com, just MUFON.com, MUFON.com, and there's a link right there on the homepage, become a field investigator. There is a field investigator manual that you have to buy. You also have to be a member. I think you can be a member for as little as $35 a year. That gets you the great UFO journal every month, of which I'm editor. You get 12 issues of that, 24 pages, parts of it in full color, and we put like some of the neatest investigations, like the really good stuff in there that's following the end of the investigation. I have the field investigator, him or herself, write it up for me. So really neat stuff. So from there, you study your field investigator manual, and it's a open book test. And at some point, you would be interacting with your state director, and then they would be probably turning you on to like who's in your area, which state section director, get to know your chief investigator for the state. And then it depends on, what state you're in, what part of the state you're in. Many states have, monthly meetings or gatherings or symposiums. There are ways to connect, and then we all connect together nationally through the website. As Director of Communications, I try to keep in touch with people in all 50 states, encouraging them. And we're getting a lot more attention right now. Hollywood, this last summer, I'm telling you, we were getting calls every day from Hollywood production companies, film companies. Probably every TV show that's on the air right now that is either paranormal or dedicated to UFOs, they all call us. They want information. They want cases, or even something as little as a background graphic.
Well, I'm sure that Hangar 1 had nothing to do with it.
How?
Well, that was great. We've been holding off on having our own show until just the right people came along, and this was just a nice, neat package. Season 1 went off very well.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of the bigger type of cases and subjects in
Right.
Season 1.
It's a great show.
The change that you're going to see for Season 2, I was a part of Season 2 as a case researcher, and I really pushed hard to get a lot of these lesser-known cases that are just wild cases out there and get them out into the show.
How easy is it? Sorry, this is Whitelman Alley. How easy is it to weed out, or hard is it to weed out through information that's just bogus information that people just want to phone in just to say they phoned in or something, and
Or the ones that really are weather balloons.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, we as a group have to really keep up, because I'll tell you, even just the last 5 to 10 years, with these small little crafts you can buy at Walmart and fly them in the air. Of course,
Drones.
Over the last 10 to 20 years, Chinese lanterns, going up,
Oh, yeah.
spooking people. So we have to keep up with the technology, and it is tough because the first job that we have to do, and not every witness wants to hear this, trust me, but we have to try our best to identify the
Of course you
object,
do.
because
Right.
literally somewhere between 90 and 95% of every UFO case reported to MUFON, we can explain it. We can tell you what it was.
Well, and that's I think that's perfect. How many years have you guys has MUFON been in existence?
Since 1969, we actually started out more as a regional organization. In 1969, as the Midwest UFO Network, and within just a few years, we had outgrown the Midwest territory. We wanted to expand nationally, and we were able to keep the same acronym, MUFON. We just changed Midwest to Mutual, the Mutual UFO Network. We had our first annual symposium in 1970. In fact, I just spoke at the 2014 symposium in Philadelphia. 2015 is going to be out in your territory, out in Irvine, California,
we're gonna have to go.
September of 2015. So we've really been growing. Dave McDonald, our international director, has been expanding, like I said, into 46 countries and assigning, international directors in each of those countries. And we're just like right now, we're getting a lot of interest from India right now. Huge population
Really?
out there. And as soon as you start to get interest and people know who we are, and we start to develop relationships in a country, the media picks up on it, and you'll see, now, we're getting a lot of cases from India.
Where are you getting most of your sightings these days?
Well, most of them, of
Nationally,
course, are
or-
still U.S. And then probably after that, I'm sure Great Britain, the British, that would probably be number 2 right now. Possibly Canada, too. Might be neck and neck with England. But and then after that, the numbers just start dropping off,
Well,
But
I get your monthly numbers, and your U.S. is off the charts, relatively speaking.
I don't think he heard you.
I get your monthly report about where the sightings are, and U.S. is off the charts, relatively speaking.
Yeah, and we just changed that. We decided to start, because I do something called the UFO Alert Rating System. And I was doing it just literally by numbers, and I would do I rated states according to a UFO Alert 1 through 5, where 5 would be where most states are at a very low-key level. California, typically anywhere from 70 to 100 reports coming in for the month, was always being rated right up there, as a UFO Alert 2. If you hit 100 or more, you'd be an Alert 1. We decided to do it by million population. So actually, the last monthly report I put out, we gave the highest level in the country, a UFO Alert 2, to Maine, Vermont, New Mexico, and Oregon. Now, that same month, September, California had 93 reports. 66 of those actually occurred during the month of September. But as far as per million population, that was a 1.73 sightings per million population. That threw California down to a UFO Alert 5 at the lowest level, where Maine only had 4 reports that occurred during that month, but it put them up in that UFO Alert 2. It's just a little different way of looking at it.
Wow. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Truth Be Told exclusively on air with Tony Sweet. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Walt Lusk.
And Walt Benally.
And we're on the phone right now. We're talking with Roger Marsh. He's the head of MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network organization. And Roger, I have an interesting question for you. You guys get lots of sightings, if you will, but how often, if ever, do you get people who have reported seeing an actual extraterrestrial
Good question.
versus the ship?
Yeah, good question. That's pretty rare, but we do get them every month. Probably, I would say an actual alien on the ground, possibly about 1 or 2 a month we get. And probably a slightly higher number than that claim that they've been abducted.
And how do you feel about the abduction part of it? I've read Communion. I know of people who've had, quote, visitations, people who have said they've been abducted and that sort of thing.
Well,
And what's your opinion on that?
Well, okay, let me state this to your listening audience, that we take the subject of alien abduction very seriously, very seriously. Kathleen Martin is our director of abduction research, and beyond Kathleen, we have a whole team of people. In fact, we're featuring them in the November Journal, which should be out the first week of November. I mean, I myself, and I'm going to mispronounce this, I am an abductee.
Okay.
To get those words out, I went through the abduction process between the ages of 5 and 16. And I, kept quiet about it.
Of course.
I mean, it was that era. I was born in 1957, and in the 60s and 70s, you definitely did not talk. In fact, you may not even have known or understood what was going on. And for me, and I ended up writing a book called Sacred Dialogue, tuning into Mother Nature's Universal Broadcast Band, that came out, I think, in October of 2010. Because my take on the abduction process is, okay, I went through it. I seem to have gotten out of it at about the age of 16. But simultaneously, whether you want to relate the two or not, it's up to you, but that's why I wrote the book Sacred Dialogue, that as soon as I began experiencing the abduction process, I began to experience a wide range of paranormal activity.
Oh,
Everything.
wow.
Telepathy.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I feel they're absolutely connected. I've seen a being, but mine was more, you can call it holographic-ish. And the weird thing about it is it would come and visit at night. And so the big joke is, Joan Rivers always says, all of these people who claim to see UFOs, they're always living in a trailer park or they're poor white trash, and you never see a UFO landing on the campus of Harvard or Princeton or Yale. And so, I was that kid in the trailer park, but literally my whole childhood, I would be visited by this little being. And it would stand in the doorway, it would do its little thing. I'm 53 now, and one of my brothers just told me at the top of this year, we were talking about paranormal experiences we'd had because I'd seen ghosts and stuff, and he said, well, did you ever have a weird experience when we first moved to the trailer down Route 3, Box 583? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, at night? I was like, yeah. He's like, and then he held his hand up like just below his waist, and I knew he was talking about the same being that I saw too. So I've seen them.
Even your own sibling that didn't want to admit it.
Oh, neither one of us. We never, ever talked about it for our entire lives. And you know what I just realized?
40 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
And this, in
Plus.
where we're at now in a society, it's real easy, and people don't think twice about reporting a, quote, UFO. But I bet you there's still a huge stigma attached to visitations and abductions.
Yeah, people are still very afraid. I mean, think about that period of time in your life when that happened.
Oh.
There's no control.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if any intelligent being can approach you and basically freeze you and do what they want, that's pretty scary.
It's like
scary.
It's literally like that, like being that book Coma, where you're completely paralyzed, but they're doing everything and you're completely wide awake.
You're
you
still
just
conscious
can't
at the
scream.
same time.
Yes. Ooh.
That happens in, funnily enough, in some operations by mistake when they put somebody.
Yes.
And they can actually feel and everything, but they're just paralyzed and they can't say anything about it or speak, which sounds
horrible.
horrid.
Right.
My understanding, the abductions are reduced. There aren't as many as there used to be. Is that true, or is there still trending as well as they used to?
I'm sorry, the abduction reports?
Yeah, the amount of abductions that are being reported, is it down or is it pretty much constant?
I would say it's on the rise.
Oh, wow.
I would
really?
have said that. Just instinctually, but not. I have obviously no proof, but it feels like they're going to be on the rise more.
Well, just because the time's getting away from us, I want to know your personal experience. I want to hear your. Yes, I'm excited about, because, like I said, when I was a kid, I grew up in Kansas, small town. I was probably 7 and 8. My brother ran in to our home and said, "Mom and Dad, come out. I think there's like some kind of object in the sky. It's just hovering." And so my dad's like, "Yeah, whatever." He didn't go out, but my mom, myself, my sisters, yeah, we all went out. We saw it, and this small prop plane come flying by, and it makes a U-turn because I think it saw it.
I saw it, yeah.
And as it got closer to it, the thing just went shoo and just took off straight up.
Was it a ball?
It was a ball.
I've seen two of those.
Yeah, but I want to know your experience because it's. I think it's great when people just finally just let it out and say, "I did see one."
Yeah, I held on to it for a long time. Prior to my experience, I just set you up this way because I come from a family of 8 children. But my parents, my mom had gotten up in the middle of the night back in 1952 to use the bathroom. Getting back into bed, she looks out the window, and there is a disc-shaped object hovering over the gas station across the street. So from that point forward, my father was buying, and my father got up and saw it also, but my father was buying every book and magazine on the market. Bringing it into the house. Of course, as a kid, I'm reading it. Now I'm 16 years old in 1973. Didn't realize it at the time, but there was a huge spike in UFO reports, especially in different pockets across the country. But in the pocket I was in, southwestern Pennsylvania, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reports were pouring in. So here's me, 16 years old, on an October evening right after dark, me and about a dozen friends standing in the street, suburban neighborhood. Somebody just pointed down the street and said, "What's that?" A telephone pole in Pennsylvania is 40 feet. This object was right above the telephone pole, so you're looking 41, 42 feet. It was the width of that 2-lane road with that little, bubble, kind of a top on it. And it's coming right toward us, completely silent, just meandering along about, 10, 15 miles per hour. I tell people if I had had a camera in my hand, I would have just dropped it. Everybody just stopped and looked at this thing. It went directly over top of us. You could hear just that swoosh of air displacement. And then following the lay of the land, the rolling hills in Pennsylvania, it went down over the hill that we were standing on and went right over Route 30. And, of course, there was a panic in the neighborhood, about 300 homes, let's say, in that neighborhood. So dozens and dozens of people were outside, and we all started kind of connecting. And a large group of us, maybe 30 or 40 people, ended up on a neighbor's front lawn. And by God, about 30 minutes later, the same UFO came back into our airspace, a little bit at a distance now, and it kind of shot across the sky, stopped, hovered, shot down to the ground, then moved a little bit to the right, hovered again, shot up, did this sequence again, and then from where it was hovering in the air, all of a sudden it just took off like you fired a bullet from seeing it till it was gone, like a split second. Within a minute, 2 Air Force jets came into that same airspace and did maneuvers, eventually going off in the direction the UFO went. A minute or two later, 2 light airplanes came in formation, same thing, off in the direction of the UFO, and then 30 minutes later, the entire scene replayed out again.
In 30 minutes?
That was my personal introduction.
Wow.
That is
Roger,
amazing.
I'm going to ask, this is a weird question. So when this happened and then everybody gathered on the lawn and everybody's talking about it and everybody's had a shared experience of it, speaking of telepathy, speaking of being able to communicate in a higher way, do you feel like part of the reason it could have come back, not the ship itself, but the beings associated with the ship brought it back, so you guys could have that experience, and then you would end up being infused with the inner knowing, a new truth, if you will, to go out and literally do this for a living?
Yes, you're bringing up an excellent topic. It doesn't come up very often, but it comes up enough that we could write a book on that topic. I can't tell you how many people say, I wished, I willed a UFO to come, and it came. Or, and I just had a case, I can't remember which one right now, where the people said, here, we just had a case in Williamson, New York. This occurred on September 27th. And you have a family at a campfire, and they're sitting around, and this object drops down to the ground level. It's this intensely bright object in a wooded area, but they said it's only 100 yards from their campfire. And it's just floating in there. They're all kind of looking, and all of a sudden the object comes out into an open field area where they could all take a good long look at it. And it just hovered there for just a couple of minutes, and it did that bat out of hell, I'm shooting a bullet off, and shoot, boom, it's gone. So it's that feeling like, hey, I'm here, look at me, everybody, yes. And when I lecture on UFOs, I tell people, because they often say, hey, Roger, what do I do if I see a UFO? And I usually say, well, back away, get to safe ground, never walk into the blue light, okay? Keep your distance, okay, from them. But if it moves away from you, you have a very good chance, based on the thousands of cases that we've tracked, it's coming back. In a couple of minutes, it'll be back. Go get your neighbor. Wake your parents up. Get your spouse out of bed. Get out there and look. It might be coming back. I don't understand that kind of a movement. I don't know what it's looking for. I don't know what it's doing, but we get a lot of cases like that.
Going back to the Joan Rivers comment, is it true that they come into more rural areas as opposed to big cities? And if so, why? I mean, if there
well, I don't understand that trend. I think statistically that's probably a report that we need to run and figure out. I tried to do it last year at one time, and then I just got busy. But it seemed like most of the better reports, because I specialize in crafts that are coming under 500 feet. I mean, look, West Virginia, that town, 1,500 residents. I don't have the population of Williamson, New York, but look it up. I'll bet that's a 5,000 to 10,000, no more than 15,000.
Probably.
But yet, at the same time, I mean, we do have the sightings in Chicago. There's the famous O'Hare Airport sighting.
Yes.
So, you can't rule out the big populations where these things come in, because if you look at what we know about UFOs, one of the things, this is what's so disheartening from investigators or a police point of view, is it's often a pinpoint of light at a distance that catches your attention. And in a split second, that object could be a pinpoint, maybe it's 2 or 3 miles out. In just a second, it could be within 50 feet of you and be the size of a football field.
Wow. That is amazing.
When you mentioned, I mean, everybody knows about Roswell. Is there any known sighting that's like behind Roswell? That's the next known sighting since Roswell, which of course was the granddaddy of them all?
Well, yeah, that's the granddaddy. I mean, we did have the crash. If you're talking about crashes, we did have the crash at Kecksburg, where I'm standing right now in this country in southwestern Pennsylvania. It's about maybe five or 6 miles from me is where it happened. That's one of the lesser known, crash sites, but something did go down that night. Something did crash. The comedy with that site, I don't know if there's any comedy at Roswell, but we had comedy in Kecksburg, because even my own father went to the site that night. They were reporting it live on radio.
Gotta love it.
That some type of a craft had crashed of unknown origin.
Gotta love it.
I was only, that would have been 1965. I was 8 years old, one of 8 kids, and I wasn't allowed in the station wagon that night. but and my other siblings that went don't even remember it. But the military basically took over that town that night.
Yes.
You could interview 50 to 100 people who saw the military, saw the guns, saw the vehicles, saw the vehicle come up out of the woods with a canopy over it, and the military denied being there for decades.
Of course.
That's the comedy. They won't even, they could have a mass of troops in your town, and it never happened.
Never happened.
Roger, have you ever had a chance to interview or speak with the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower?
I have not, no.
Because I interviewed her a few years ago, and we had talked, and she openly admits that her great-grandfather met with aliens.
President
And-
Eisenhower.
Yeah, and I was always curious if you guys had a chance, because she was very interesting and she's very open about it. And I even asked her, "Aren't you, kind of scared of talking about it?" She says, "Well, if I get killed, they pretty much prove my point."
Yeah.
But I remember watching Hangar 1 about the presidential
Yeah,
encounters.
right.
And we have about 6 minutes left. That what has been the biggest government employee that has ever came to MUFON to report an incident or a sighting?
That you can't say.
Well, that you can say, or then you can just we'll just turn the mics off and you can.
All right, all you guys have to drink the Kool-Aid after the show.
Oh,
Okay?
they're right.
Don't
No,
ask any questions.
The Men in Black will be coming.
Well, I mean, I can't think of anybody. I'm going to come back to my point that material is out there.
Yes.
That here we have Eisenhower, who, like you said, we covered it on one of our episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she
where I
did.
watched it.
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Obviously.
I get very frustrated when I see episodes like that because it's been covered before. It's out there. It's everywhere. You want to read Roswell? There's book after book after book
yes,
you
there
can
are.
read about it. But we have all these great other cases. Pick a state.
Right.
I could talk for an hour and you'd never shut me up. Just pick a state. I could tell you about objects under 500 feet. How about just we could talk about objects chasing people through the desert.
Tell us
Objects
an incident.
chasing cars.
I want to hear that one.
know.
Tell us one incident. That,
I don't have my notes in front of me,
okay.
but it's actually I did a play called Cross Country Witness Testimony. It is available at my website if anybody wants it. But in that one, I know there were 2 cases of people crossing the Arizona desert, and typically here's what happened. They look out their window and they see this light coming up behind them, and it was like the size of a softball, and just a lit, perfectly round ball of light. And it comes right up along the driver's side of the window, like it's checking the car out. And it doesn't matter if you slow down or speed up. And this one couple, they were absolutely in fear of what was this thing. Eventually, and I know in the first case, it gets in front of their car, again, as if saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm here." It gets in front of their car, stays at a pace with them, and then all of a sudden it just shoots out into the sky. Like, goodbye, I'm leaving.
I made my point.
Well, I have a really quick question for you. Why is Catalina Island in that area over here near Los Angeles such a hot spot?
They have great clubs, I hear. Oh, you mean UFOs?
Oh, that's
good
good.
Very good.
Honestly, off the top of my head, I mean, I know that we get more reports out of the state of California than anywhere else. I'm really not, off the top of my head, familiar with that area, but I think if you talk with the folks right in California, we actually have 2 state directors in California, Ruben to the north and Georgianne to Southern California. That would be a better person to answer that question about that specific area.
Well, we only have like 2 minutes left, and unfortunately, we're running out of time, and that is going to have you an open invitation. You're going to have to come back because we have so much more questions, and we definitely want to hear more about new sightings, and we want to find out when again is Hangar 1 supposed to be coming back to the airways?
I should know soon. In the next 30 days, they'll probably let me know. But they've told me January or February.
And it's on the History 2 channel for those of you who want to check it out.
H2.
H2.
Right, H2 channel, right.
Yeah.
And also, you write for, you write for Huffington Post. You're a blogger for Huffington Post. You openminds.tv. Where else can we, besides also MUFON.com?
There you go.
Where else can we find it? Because you're a busy man.
If you go to rogermarsh.moonfruit.com.
Moonfruit, I love that.
My name, rogermarsh.moonfruit.com. I need to get over there that soon, but I have a lot of my books and plays, a couple of films I directed, things like that over there. And I have links to all the places that I write.
And folks, if you really are interested in more of this, first off, join MUFON. I mean, come on, it's $35.
Yeah.
And we need to support MUFON and keep this going.
And become an investigator if that's something you're passionate about.
MUFON.com.
I think I might even try it.
Yeah, we definitely need more members.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
anytime you guys want to have me on, I'd love to come back. I can always tell you the latest things that are going on.
Oh, please, don't worry.
Yeah, and thank you for sticking with it since the 60s, going into the 70s, building it grassroots, and now you're like a global phenomenon. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Roger. Thank you. I appreciate you, and come back soon,
Thanks,
all right?
guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, my friend. All right, well, we're out of time, guys, but we're back next week. We're going to have Damona Hoffman. The reason we're going to have Damona Hoffman back because she is a former sci-fi executive, and she's produced many paranormal TV shows. And so next week is all about paranormal. We're going to have author Richard Southall. He is author of many books, but 2 books, and especially we're going to talk about Haunted Route 66 and Haunted Plantations of the South.
Okay.
And then we have Jeff Belanger. He is Emmy nominated for hosting a television show on PBS. And he's an author of quite a few books himself, The World's Most Haunted Places, and with volumes 1, 2, 3, and it keeps going. So this is going to be amazing.
And then we have a very unique show on Halloween.
On Halloween.
Yes, we do.
October 31.
Live seance. Oh, if you like a live seance, you better tune in. All right, so we love you guys. Eddie, Walt, well, thank you guys so much. You guys are great, and
thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
It's always a thrill.
And
Mucho grande.
stick around because we have a brand new show starting right after this at 6 o'clock. If you're a boy band enthusiast like we are, a UFO enthusiast, we have Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees going to be starting a brand new show right after this show. So stick around. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in right here on Universal Broadcasting on our Tony Sweet, Truth Be Told. See you next week. Bye-bye.
This has been On Air with Tony Sweet.